So, Mr. President, thank you so much for coming in today and for your time. You have pledged to more than double economic growth in Chile, but of course we're seeing the trade tensions with the United States and China. How will this impact Chilean economic growth? Will this derail your growth goals?
Well, our target is to become a developed country without poverty before the end of next decade. And we are in that direction. Of course, the trade war or trade conflicts between China and the US is not only affecting us. I think that free trade is the best for the whole world. And I think that this restriction and tariff war will damage China, will damage the US, and will damage the whole world. And it's affecting us because our main export copper, its price is going down, price of oil is going up. But despite those difficulties, our target to double our rate of growth is already there. We will honor our commitment. And at the same time, investment is going up, productivity is going up, confidence is going up. So the Chilean economy is really experiencing a kind of revival, which we are very happy with it.
You mentioned copper prices going down. Also, the Chilean peso has been going down. Of course, we are seeing this emerging market sell-off, especially from your neighbor, Argentina. Is this going to exacerbate some of the economic challenges out there?
Oh, yes. I mean, the situation in Latin America is not easy. I mean, we have a mess in Venezuela, but also we have big trouble in Argentina. They have just reached a new agreement with IMF, which will allow them to try to overcome this financial crisis that are living. And at the same time, the Brazilian economy is very stagnated. But in this difficult neighborhood, the Chilean economy is growing. We have had our best growth rate in the last 6 years. We are heading the capacity of growth in Latin America. We are growing more than the rest of the world. So we are happy with what we have achieved. But of course, we need to do a lot of things, major reforms, in order to be able to keep growing at 5 or 6% per year for a long period of time.
So which reforms will you prioritize?
We will prioritize in the next days a tax reform in order to incentivize investment, productivity, innovation, entrepreneurship, to give a tax rate for the middle class and also for the medium and small size firms. The second reform that we are going to undertake is a pension reform in order to adequate the situation to what is happening in Chile, because life expectancy in Chile is going up very rapidly. And the next reform will be labor reform in order to give more flexibility, more freedom to entrepreneurs and workers to agree on many things, not only wages, but also how will they distribute their labor commitment, how to give more flexibility, how to compatibilize in a better way the world of labor and the world of the family, those kind of things, in order to, at least, we want to improve the quality of life of our people. That's our main target, and we're working in that direction.
Chile's credit rating has been downgraded. Do you have a timeline to regain your former rating?
Well, it's true, our credit rating was downgraded, basically because of what happened in the former government, the last government, because they ran a very significant fiscal deficit. They doubled our public debt in 4 years. But we are trying to recover our sound macroeconomic policy. So we are reducing our fiscal deficit. We have already stabilized our public debt. And so we hope that sooner than later, we will recover our credit rating.
Within your presidency?
Of course, definitely. We are hoping and working for that.
China, of course, plays a big role for your economic growth. How is Chile maintaining those trade relationships, and what do you hope to achieve in the future?
Well, we have a very good trade relation with China. We have a trade agreement with China. We have this relation for many, many decades, and China has become by far the largest trading partner of Chile. And we want to keep it that way. But in some respect, for instance, we negotiated with President Obama the famous TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. It was a very difficult negotiation. And finally, we reached an agreement. And at the end, at the final day, under President Trump administration, the US decided to drop out of that. We continue with the TPP with the other 11 countries. And probably China will join that agreement. So to some extent...
Have you had conversations with China?
Yes.
So on them joining the Trans-Pacific Partnership?
They might. Of course, they might. They have demonstrated their interest. To some extent, the US is leaving the space for the Chinese to improve or increase their influence, not only in Latin America, in the whole world.
Do you see the U.S. ever coming back to the TPP?
I think that they should come back to the Paris Agreement on global warming and climate change. They should come back to the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, because at the end of the day, we have to deal responsibly with the climate change. We are the first generation to be hurt by the climate change, and the last generation that can do something about it. And on the other hand, I think that the US, which has always been a defendant of free trade, has to come back to that sound and good policy.
You will have a conversation with President Trump tomorrow. What do you hope to achieve?
Well, we will have a conversation about many things. One issue that I would like to discuss with him is that free trade is good for everybody, and tariff wars are bad for everybody. Another issue that I'm sure that President Trump will want to talk about is what is happening in Venezuela. Venezuela is a mess, it's a crisis, it's a dramatic situation. Not only because they have lost their democracy, rule of law, they don't respect human rights, they don't respect freedom of expression, they have a lot of political prisoners, but they are also going through a huge economic crisis. GNP in Venezuela is now 1/2 of what it was, and a humanitarian crisis. Literally, many Venezuelans are starving because they don't have food and dying because they don't have medicines.
You've in fact strengthened your visa requirements for Venezuelans recently. How has that worked out?
What we've done, we have created a special visa, which is called democratic visa for the Venezuelans. So we want to facilitate those Venezuelans that cannot or have no opportunity in their own country to come to Chile. And there are many Venezuelans which are coming to Chile. And most of them have come with very high levels of education, engineers, doctors, and therefore we are gaining from that immigration. But what is happening in Venezuela? They are losing the human capital, and that's something which is very dangerous for a country.
Very dangerous for the region. What else needs to be done?
I think that some people are proposing or insinuating a military invasion. I don't agree with that. Because you know how it starts. You never know how it will end, how many people will die, what will be the suffering that it can produce. But as Latin American countries, we are fully committed. We're doing everything we can within the international legal framework to help the Venezuelan people to recover their democracy, their freedom, their respect for human life, and their ability to prosper. Because what the Maduro regime is doing to Venezuela is something absolutely incredible. Venezuela was the richest country in Latin America in the 90s. Today, the GNP is 1/2 of what it was. Chile was the poorest Spanish colony in Latin America. And now we have become the most developed country in Latin America, with work, with democracy, with open, free economics, with investing in education, in innovation, in entrepreneurship. That's the way to be able to overcome underdevelopment and to defeat poverty.
Finally, Mr. President, when it comes to investments here in the U.S., there's been a little bit of a controversy over Chinese investments and protecting some of those strategic industries. There's been a little bit of controversy over Chinese investments in Chilean companies, especially when it comes to antitrust issues here and there. How do you balance those two, the need for investment, but also protecting your industries?
Well, Chile is a very open country. We believe in freedom and movement of goods, services, capital, and people. And therefore, our main relationship with China is trade. Almost 25% of our trade is with China, which represents by far the largest trading partner, not only of Chile, of many other Latin American countries. The second issue where the Chinese are very active in Chile is in foreign investment. And the third one is in lending, but in that order. So if they respect our law, if they fulfill all the requirements, they are welcome. As the US is welcome, the European investment is welcome. We don't want to discriminate, and we won't.
Mr. President, thank you so much for your time today.
Shery, thank you very much.